I am proud and happy to announce that Assembly Bill 2563 was introduced by Assemblyman Bill Essayli, which will expand statewide screening of newborns to include screening for Duchenne muscular dystrophy in the state of California. I thank Assemblyman Essayli for introducing this critical initiative. The Assemblyman and I have known each other for many years, as he would volunteer his time as an accomplished attorney to coach my high school's mock trial team. There, he would teach us about law and greatly help shape my public speaking skills as he instilled confidence in me. Shortly after being on the mock trial team, I'd go on to become the founder of a nonprofit organization, Destroy Duchenne, at the age of 15, an author, public speaker, and worked for several biotech companies at the current age of 22. It's inspiring to me to connect the dots and see how my former mock trial coach is now helping me advance my cause by introducing a very important bill. Now, the reason this is an important bill is because of the nature of the disease in focus, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Duchenne, being a fatal progressive muscle wasting disease, means that time is muscle. As time goes by, so does a patient's muscles. Duchenne, being a rare and unknown disease, makes it hard to detect at an early enough age, and thus medical intervention cannot take place. You can't treat a patient if you don't know they are one. Symptoms of the disease typically occur around ages 3 to 6. As a patient myself, my parents saw slight muscle weakness at the time I was 4, and really noticed something was wrong at the age of 5. Then, after seeing many doctors and doing many tests, I was officially diagnosed with Duchenne by the time I was 6 years old. By the time of my diagnosis, significant muscle had been lost. As the disease progresses, children will inevitably lose their ability to walk and become completely dependent on using a power wheelchair, typically by the ages of 9 through 12. For me, it was age 11. Upper limb function will decline with age, and ultimately Duchenne leads to premature death, typically occurring in the 20s or 30s as muscles responsible for respiratory function weaken, as does the heart, since the heart is a muscle itself. However, there is hope with the advent of new FDA-approved drugs, as well as drugs in development, that the disease outcome will improve and even be cured one day. Agamree, an anti-inflammatory drug, was recently FDA approved for Duchenne for ages 2 and up. Corticals have shown to keep children walking longer, improve respiratory function compared to natural history, and thus extend patients' lives, as it helps address one of the major pathological effects in Duchenne, chronic inflammation. There is good scientific reason to believe, as well as clinical data to support, that starting children on corticosteroids at a young age leads to better patient outcomes. The first ever gene therapy, a therapeutic approach that aims at delivering a functional copy of the faulty or missing gene by Sarepta Therapeutics, was FDA approved last year for DMD for ages 4 to 5. By having higher expression levels of dystrophin, the protein lacking or missing in Duchenne, muscle is better able to be preserved, as dystrophin plays a crucial role in maintaining the structural integrity of muscle fibers and prevents damage during muscle contractions. As I mentioned earlier, you can't treat a patient if you don't know they are one. And considering the nature of Duchenne, diagnosis of the disease typically happens after a significant period of time has passed, when medical intervention could have started, and thus, better outcomes for patients are missed. Let me give a clear scenario. If the gene therapy option existed when I was a child, I would have missed the opportunity to get access to it, as I was diagnosed at the age of 6, and the therapy is only approved for ages 4 to 5. There will be many such cases as this. Additionally, if I was diagnosed earlier, I could have started taking Agamree at a very early age, which likely would have preserved more muscle as it helps fight against the chronic inflammation seen in Duchenne. Contrary, by delaying medical intervention due to not being aware of having the disease only leads to a faster decline of muscle function and a poorer quality of life for the patients. This is unnecessary suffering that doesn't need to happen. It's suffering that can be prevented by the state legislature by supporting Assembly Bill 2563, as this will allow the opportunity for parents to be aware if their child has Duchenne early on, rather than being left in the dark. Furthermore, in order to cure the disease, with minimizing the pathological effects like fibrosis, the combination of fat and scar tissue from accumulating, you need to treat the child as early as possible before these pathological effects start. That being said, this further supports the notion that the infrastructure, newborn screening for Duchenne, needs to already be in place to best utilize future treatments and even potential cures. Other states like Ohio and New York have already implemented newborn screening for Duchenne, and I believe it's time, as the most populated state and the far and away leader in biotech, California, to do the same. Now, when it comes to screening for disease in California, we have a system in place that automatically adds in diseases to be screened for whenever a disease is added to the recommended uniform screening panel by the Advisory Committee on Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children. Recent comments from the Advisory Committee on Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children makes me doubtful that they'll be adding Duchenne to the recommended uniform screening panel anytime soon. And children cannot afford to wait upon the Advisory Committee, which is why, as the state of California, we need to go through a different pathway to mandate newborn screening for Duchenne. The Advisory Committee on Heritable Disorders in Newborns and Children raised concerns about the reliability of testing methods in order to detect Duchenne. However, the FDA has authorized the GSP neonatal creatine kinase MM kit to use in newborn screening programs for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. In simple terms, creatine kinase helps energize muscle cells. Now, if there's elevated number of creatine kinase found in the bloodstream, this means muscle cells are breaking down abnormally. In Duchenne, creatine kinase levels are elevated as muscle cells are ripping apart abnormally due to the lack of or missing protein dystrophin, which acts as a shock absorber for the cell, which causes creatine to escape the cell at normal amounts. In other words, it's as if the pillars upholding the roof of a house went missing and the roof ripped open and a bunch of papers and furniture flew out into the sky. The pillars being dystrophin, the roof being the cell membrane, the papers and furniture being creatine kinase, and the sky being the bloodstream. That being said, the creatine kinase MM kit is a simple prick of a newborn's heel, which will indicate the presence of Duchenne through the elevated levels of creatine kinase. Parents being aware that abnormal muscle breakdown is occurring in their newborn then allows them to explore further via genetic testing rather than being left in the dark. Instead of leaving children and patients in the dark, I want to give them the signal that something is wrong so that they can immediately start treatment and have a better disease outcome. Building an environment where our children can grow up healthy is important, and that is why it is so important for bills like Assembly Bill 2563 to be successful. I will do everything I can to push this forward, and I'm calling on advocacy groups to join me in this life-changing effort. Let's unite together and use our talents, connections, and resources to build a better future for all the children who make up our future. I'm calling on the Muscular Dystrophy Association, Cure Duchenne, Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, Walking Strong, Team Joseph, Jet Foundation, and other advocacy groups in the Duchenne space. Let's unite and go to work. I'm also calling on those in the biotech industry to help with this initiative. I'm calling on Sarepta Therapeutics, Catalyst Pharmaceuticals, Capricor Therapeutics, Satellos Bioscience, PTC Therapeutics, Solid Biosciences, DNA Nanobots, and others in the Duchenne space to help support this effort. A simple letter of support would be a significant help. And for the viewer watching, sharing this on your social media would be a tremendous help. Thank you.